Hello, welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jet, and today I'm joined by the rather lovely
Jackson from Modal Electronics.
High five. And we're flying today in the corner of the Maltese Falcon. Jackson, what have you brought us?
You've seen this already, actually. We showed you an early prototype, and if you're a watcher of the channel, you might have seen Jack do a little noodle with some of the patches. But we're back now. This is out in the wild, so we're going to go for a deep dive of Craftsynth 2.0. It is an update to a previous product of ours, which was a DIY mono synth, and now we've removed the DIY aspect, put in a lot of connectivity, and just really updated the synthesis engine. It's vastly more capable than it was before, so yeah, we'll do.
Let's dive in, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, under the hood. What's under the hood?
So, like we said, it's a monophonic synthesizer, but it's got a few kind of bells and whistles around that. It's actually got 8 oscillators, so we've got 4 split. We've got the oscillator section here on the left-hand side. And it's basically a wavetable synthesizer, but we've got stacked on each of those waves 4 oscillators. So we can do a little bit of trickery to kind of move away from just the traditional mono sounds. You can kind of get chords and things out of it really easily. So yeah, it's a really interesting kind of like tool for kind of going a little bit further than you'd usually expect with sort of small format or like mono.
Yeah, so let's stay in that oscillator section.
Let's do it.
8 oscillators, wavetables. How many wavetables can we get in there?
So we've got 40 wavetables. There's another noise bank at the end, but 40 wavetables in there. They're grouped into 5, so we can go through presets on each of these wave dials and access another 5, and you can morph through them continuously, so you have, you know, all of those points in between as well. It's not just static.
Can we see that?
Let's do it. I'm just gonna go over to here. We're gonna initialize a preset, and we can just listen to the waves on their own.
Yeah.
So if you turn this guy for me whilst I hold the preset button. So we come through all the different banks. I let go, and you twisted through one of the banks there. So now we have control over this table, but we can go and choose another one. Just hold preset and turn the dial, and we have another different wavetable. Yes, they're all beautifully
and represented on here. And what is this?
This is Modal app. So this is a host for Craftsynth 2.0, for Skulpt synthesizer, which you've already seen, and for the previous Craft products. So Craft Rhythm will be in there too. And
we've got this on our big new screen. It works on. It's running off our Mac. iOS,
Android, Mac PC, yeah, the whole lot. And it's a standalone application as well.
Because I could hear that. I could hear it and I could visualise it, and I realised, I can go behind and check it out on there, and you can really hear that. What's special about wavetables, I think, is just moving through them.
It's something that's so hard to describe without actually hearing it. I could, sit for hours trying to describe what wavetables were.
And you've got, do you have traditional waveforms in there as well? If you're like a virtual analog head.
First bank is a VA wave shape, so we go from sine, all the traditional wave shapes, and then from there we go into some stuff from the 002, which is one of our really big analog digital hybrids synths, a big polysynth. So we've taken some wavetables from there. We've done some new wavetables. The DSP guys just done some cracking wavetables in here. So some new stuff for us as well, and then some from kind of different sort of types of oscillator at the moment, like the one we were just on. Polygonal, which is a really interesting one. It's something about folding out polygons. There's way more to it than that. There's a very basic description, but
I find it fascinating. It's beautifully represented here. Hopefully you can
nice, isn't it?
Check it out. Right, but I swear I've played some chordy patches on it when it came in last time.
Yeah.
So we've got those 8 oscillators, and it's monophonic, but there's 40 wavetables. Why can I play chords on it?
So we've got, there's 2 kind of things, 2 ways you can do this. Traditionally with synthesizers, you can detune some of the waves. So you could either set, if you had 3 or more oscillators, you could set them apart and make a chord. We've only got 2 waves to play with here, so we could do an interval really easily, but then on top of that with the spread function, we can come through regular detune, and once we get halfway through, it'll snap into chords. So all of those 8 oscillators are going from kind of spreading apart like this to then just being mathematically related in intervals. So it'll go into minors, majors, all sorts of chord shapes and stuff, which you'll hear now. So you can get chords out of it. Once you use that with the tuning as well on the second oscillator, they can become kind of more complex voicings. You know, if you've just got sort of like a triad or a 4-note voicing that's in there, and then add another kind of interval on top of it, you get this complex kind of thing. So you can do some really nice chords.
I'm looking longingly at the Maltese Falcon. It sounded like what's going on in your head a lot of the time. Walking down the street, Maltese Falcon, kind of like me.
There's one of these sitting in his brain, yeah.
What I dig with this is how it's behaving as you're moving through. Would you say that's for all the controls on here? Just keep going and it'll give you cool things.
Yeah, we've kind of optimized a lot of the controls in here to work in different ways. So for example, with the LFO rates or with the delay time, it will work in, so if we look at the delay time, for example, it will work in both directions where we go one way and it's free. But when we come back in the other direction, it syncopates. And it's the same with the rates on the LFOs. So one way's free, and then you can syncopate. And the LFOs have got another nice bit of trickery there, where one of them can stack into ratios of the pitch that you're playing. So you essentially have another modulation source.
Wow, because they're audio rate LFOs.
Yeah.
You can
exactly, but you're snapping into where those sort of relationships are, those frequency relationships, and it'll go in like 1.5 to up to I think 3.5 times the.
And we're talking about complex stuff here.
Yeah.
And it's, how much is it selling for?
149 in the UK, I think.
It's mad.
Sorry, 149 euros, maybe 129.
Yeah, or wait, just check the link. You know, again, it depends if Boris is in there or Jeremy. We'll see. See what he defines the price that you pay for your synths. Okay. But I just think it's incredible, man.
It is. For something that's this small to have packed so much into it, I am constantly shocked by that thing.
So we've done oscillator section. Let's high-five our way into some envelopes and LFOs, right? Envelopes.
So we've seen Skulpt here before. We use the same kind of envelopes that we have there. We've got 3, one for the filter, one for the amp, and one for the mod envelope, which is kind of an envelope that you can assign to different parts of the synthesizer. So you could assign it to the pitch to kind of get kick drums or just, you know, a little bit of difference in the pitch as it goes, or we can use it with the oscillator modifiers. This is a really, really big part of the synthesizer. It's kind of like traditional things like frequency modulation or ring modulation, but we have 16 different types of modulation that can occur, and they don't always happen in the same way. Some of them are linked to the oscillators, some of them are just applied overall to the sound. It's
Can we demonstrate that?
let's do it. Yeah,
Well, let's
do
give it a go.
So
Let's give it a gan.
let's just go for an init patch so you can hear what's going on, and we'll just get a bit of noise out of it quick. So we got a really basic patch here. I'm going to assign the mod envelope, let's do that, to the oscillator modifier. So if I hold on to here, I press shift and I move it, I'm now assigning it. And you can see that goes in a positive and a negative direction, so it's bipolar. As with a lot of the modulation on here, it's bipolar.
And the Maltese Falcon, yeah.
It is bipolar as well.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit, I'm not sure how much we're in there, we've got a little bit of modulation happening, I'll just put it on full. And if I then adjust the mod envelope,
Lag.
so, I mean, it's really, really quick to get stuff like that set up, but then we've got like 16 different options there for different modifiers. They're all very different. They all have their own kind of sort of texture and kind of like preferred uses. Some of them sound really good with subtle sounds. Some of them sound really good with aggressive sounds. There's a lot that you can kind of pull out from you know, the oscillator modifiers, and it works very similarly to changing the banks of the wavetables. You just hold the preset button and you just go through the 16 banks. So yeah, it's really, really powerful. I mean, in terms of modulation, it's a really interesting one. If you're familiar with Skulpt, we had quite an in-depth mod matrix there, and we've kind of reduced it in this where we have static points. So we've got the LFOs and the mod envelope and the stuff that's actually on board, and then you can access via the app kind of after-touch, mod wheel, all the stuff that we just don't have room to kind of give you a button for here.
But you're manipulating it on here, all credit to you, and not getting to the software.
Yeah, for sure.
And flying around it, and it sounds so, it's so musical. And the shades of it, I can hear it moving gradually through the colours, through the shades.
That's it.
Which is nice, because I get just a bit scared sometimes if it just goes off-piece and to another world. You've mentioned Skulpt a few times. Is that still, how do you see the two products?
I mean, there's a bit of a relationship there. Kind of design-wise, it's very quick to pick up on, and there is some stuff in the synth architecture which is the same for the two of them. We use the same two-pole resonant morphing filter. We use the same envelopes, the LFOs. It's just the sound engine, the synthesis engine, the oscillators and the oscillator modifiers that are actually different here. And obviously with this being monophonic and having a kind of a hybrid up sequencer, whereas in Skulpt they're separated. So there's a lot of the same ideas floating around that have been distilled into kind of a different format here. But it also leans on a lot of the kind of same, more kind of staple things like the envelopes and stuff like that and the filter. And the connectivity for both of them is the same.
Yeah, and if you're new to Modal, like those 002 waves you're talking about, just the pedigree, just go, you don't have to go back, I mean, it's still there, pedigree's still there.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, LFOs?
2 LFOs here, similarly easy to assign them, so I guess we'll do one of them to the filter now. If I just choose the second one, hold it, again, the bipolar readout, so I'm now just assign that to the filter. If we just give it some rate. You can hear it start to if we pull this kind of a bit more aggressively. So you notice the same thing. Up until halfway we have free rate and we've made it so that you continue and it starts to snap to those frequencies that we were talking about, and you can hear how that goes from being like resonant wobbles into actually turning into like a more like an overtone really. So yeah, really very, very powerful. Like before you
can I have a go at that?
Yeah, go for it.
So if I
There's the rate. So you now go backwards, syncopated. Come all the way back over here.
love it. It's like having the lanes up at bowling. It just makes it a bit more fun.
That's it. Well, you can't go wrong. You know, you can twist something and it's just.
You know, once you get over, you realise bowling is not really a sport and you're just chilling. You might as well put the lanes up and have a good time.
You should get the ramp down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the ramp. Exactly.
Push it and carry on. You know, carry on what you're doing.
And this filter, you said two-pole morphing.
Yeah, so it's a state variable filter, which means that we can control it. Actually, you can see this on the screen better than I can kind of describe it. So if I go traditionally with the filter, it's just the low pass and you can see the resonant peak at the top.
Yeah.
If we then start to morph it, it turns into a band pass and then goes up to a high pass. And we can kind of do all of those things kind of simultaneously. So you could be adjusting, you know.
Yeah.
But I would, you know, with CC control, I could have all of that happening all at once and have this, you know, all the LFOs or whatever you wanted to manipulate it with. You can have all of that moving in a way which is just really not like normal.
Yeah, exactly. And has it got effects in there?
Yes, yeah, so we've got a wave shaping overdrive. Again, this is the same as Skulpt. We've got a wave shaping overdrive.
Oh, I love hearing effects.
Let's go for it.
All right,
let's load a random preset. So we've got some delay already on here. Some distortion. And as I said before, you know, the same happens. We go in the opposite direction, it syncs. In the other way, it's free. So it's really.
And you're accessing all those, the shift. Even I'm getting it, all the blue things.
Good.
With the blue button.
It's really good to see that.
It's so thoughtful.
It's funny
and
because.
a little bit about the team, about Modal.
Yeah.
How many of you are there? Where are you based? I think we need to kind of big up, you know, in English. It feels like you're the equivalent of some other companies that I've seen in Europe, you know, like a bunch of passionate dudes making cool stuff.
We're a really small team. We're less than 10 of us. You know, there's a bunch of developers who are in Bristol. There's the founder and, you know, our sales manager, our marketing manager who are in Southampton and myself in London. So we're split apart. But, you know, we kind of sort of all come together over these things, kind of.
And this
get
was
them right
was it a crowdfunding?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
aspect to this.
This was a Kickstarter. So we launched a Kickstarter in just at the end of last year, actually, and went over into January. So we ended in January, and it's been probably shipping now for about a month or 2 months. So it's been a long process through the year of getting everything finalised and just kind of working perfectly. So it's good now. We're starting to get people pour back in, you know, saying what they like, and yeah, it
seems to be done with that in mind, to fulfil that audience. Like the price point's ridiculously low. It's ridiculously simple.
It's
to
a compromise
have.
thing for
It's
us. I mean,
small as well. I really can't grasp it. I mean, is there any specs? How big is that?
not off the top of my head.
That's like a ruler.
Yeah.
It's like a primary school ruler, 15 centimeters, something like that. And it runs off batteries.
Runs off 3 AA's, and you can power it over USB as well. So you could use a power bank or a charger, regular wall chargers and all that sort of stuff.
Let's roll with, and then the connectivity. So how can we connect it up?
So you can see on the back here we've got a micro USB. We then have a headphone out and a line out, which is just here, and then followed by 2 sync ports. So there's a sync in and sync out, which you can, I know you're kind of fond of the teenage engineering stuff, you can plug straight into those things and will work kind of sync up together.
And the 2 line outs, can you control the volume of each one, or is that just to give you...
No, the volume...
Is that assignable?
The volume is the same for both of them. So
Right,
it's
cool.
controlled over here. It's actually, they're different outs. It's one for headphones, one for line out.
Right, cool. Yeah.
I think it's a different level of signal,
That's
essentially.
nice, that's thoughtful.
So yeah, it's good connectivity. Basically, with the original line, the Craftsynth, it was a micro, or mini USB rather, only, and a headphone out, or a line out. It probably was line. So we've added in a whole bunch of other stuff. So the MIDI, full-size MIDI in and out was a big one for those first users. Nobody really wants to...
No, it made it a cinch today. We could just grab a controller, plug it in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things that if you have the space to do it, you should do it. Just because you're doing something that you want to keep at low cost doesn't mean that you have to pull some of those things out. And I think that's one of the things that we kind of were a bit stumped by with other small products. You have to buy breakout cables, you have to buy a whole bunch of other stuff to get it working. And it's great because it means you can keep those things small, but it means that they're kind of limited in just in certain environments. You have to know that you have all that stuff, and you can't necessarily just go to your mate's house and kind of expect him to have that stuff there, So we try to kind of remove any of those compromises with those smaller products, with the connectivity especially. I think it's a really important thing to get right, because if people don't have the things that they want when they're pulling this stuff out of the box straight away, you're going to get tired really quickly. And this is such a beautiful synth that you don't want people to be kind of discounting it because it doesn't have full-size MIDI or this or that. So yeah, do it justice and kind of...
I get that feeling, man, that there's a lot more thought in this product than the price may suggest. What can we imagine? Is there any plans to keep updating it, or?
Yeah, we've done a few updates already. So we've added some more features and kind of ironed things out where we want them to work a little bit better. But yeah, we're consistently going to be updating these, and as the family kind of grows as well, they'll kind of all come up together, and there might be some more updates for Skulpt, for example, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, awesome. Well, I think I'll play you out with some patches, but I just want to give you a big high five, brother. Let's do it. If you like what we're doing on the channel, please consider subscribing. If you don't, let us know. We're reading it. Believe it or not, we're trying, man. We're all trying to just get through this thing called life. See you later.